Let's talk about Identity and Access Management, or IAM. This service within your AWS account allows you to assign permissions to users and something else called roles, which are similar to users, that allow you to give either access or prohibit access to individual users within your account. In this particular account that I'm looking at, I happen to have 11 users currently. Each user gets assigned some type of policy that permits them to do things. If you do not give a new user permissions, they by default aren't allowed to do anything. Let's walk through the process of creating a user and assigning them some permissions, and then I'll talk about adding them to a group. So first, let's go over to users. And imagine that I'm going to have a bunch of developers working on EC2 instances, and my first developer is going to be Devi Developer. So I'll go ahead and click on that Add Users, and I'll give this person a name, Devi Developer. And for new users, we can either give them console access, meaning they can log into console.aws.amazon.com with their username and password and do things in here. We can also give them access via programmatic access. And what this is it gives you a set of keys that you can download to your computer, and with those keys you can interact with the AWS service externally. So one example of this is using the AWS CLI or command line interface, and if you're familiar with either Bash or PowerShell, this would allow you to issue AWS commands like create an instance, turn it back off, etc., from your local computer and have it take effect in the AWS environment without having to actually be on this particular website. In this case, I'll give the user both permissions so they can log in with the username and password, and we're also going to generate some access keys for them that they can use to create things on their local computer or from their local computer. First question here is it says, do we want to add the user to a group? And for now, I'm going to go ahead and skip that, but I'm going to select this third option, which is to add a policy to this user. And you can add individual policies to individual users, and actually you can add many policies to users. This isn't necessarily a best practice, but just to demonstrate, I'll show you how it works. EC2. So I want to give them full access to administering EC2 instances in my account and nothing else. So I'm going to select AWS or Amazon EC2 full access. I'm not going to give it any tags. I go to review and we see summary information. Importantly, we see they're allowed full access to EC2 services, and they're allowed to change their password, nothing else. We click on Create User, and then we get to this page right here, which allows us to send them an email with their credentials. It also allows us to capture their credentials if we want to reveal them for their programmatic access and save those somewhere. If you don't download that information now, you will never see it again or get access to it again. Okay, so now in my list of users, I have my developer, Debbie Developer. Let's talk about groups now. Now, if I had a group of developers that all needed the same access to EC2 instances, it's a little bit cumbersome to always be assigning an individual permission to them. It makes more sense and it's easier to manage if I create just a couple of groups within my account and then don't give individual permissions to users, but rather assign a user to a group, and then I just manage the permissions within that group. All right, so let's go over to user groups, and here's a list of user groups that I have currently available. I'm going to go ahead and create a new one, and I'm going to call this Web Devs. And I can, while I'm creating this group, add one of my developers to it. And then lastly, and possibly most importantly, what are the permissions that people within this group are going to have? And for anyone that gets added to the Web Devs group, I'm going to give them Amazon EC2 full access. And maybe just for fun, maybe they want to know what's going on in my account. So I'm going to look for security audit, and if I were to expand this, you would see that it allows you to analyze pretty much everything in the account, but not actually create services within your account. So there's hundreds of services, And security audit is an additional set of permissions that allows you to see a lot of things in the account so you're aware of them, but you can't change them. So in this case, we're going to be giving this person, well, I'm not sure if I might have just lost that other one that I had selected. So let me go ahead and type in EC2 again and click that off. Okay, that's still selected. Okay, so we have two things selected. Great. We're going to go ahead and click create group. And now if we go to user groups, we can go down to web devs. And I click as I look at this, I notice that there is one user in this group. I click on it and I see the user is Debbie Developer, and I can see the policies or permissions associated with any user that gets added to this group.